Hey, what's up, everyone? Stacey here, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Late Night Lake Show podcast, powered by 19 Media Group. I have been given the special privilege today of co-hosting with both Ricky and Jody for our first ever Lakers Legend edition of the Late Night Lake Show podcast. And it's only right that I get to introduce our very special guest today. He not only is my favorite all-time player, but he's my favorite all-time Laker. Former All-Star and the originator, the creator of the Lake Show era of Lakers basketball, none other than Nick, the Quick Van Exel. Nick, how are you doing today?
Oh man, I'm good. Appreciate y'all having me. I'm good. Just trying to stay cool in this Texas heat. Other than that, I'm just chilling.
Okay. So, I want to jump right into it. Watching you as a kid and a young basketball player at the time, what stood out to me was not only your passion for the game, but also that unapologetic, like needing to prove something night after night type of mentality. And I just want to know where does that stem from, that whole like quote unquote chip on your shoulder type of energy? I want to know like what the driving force behind that was.
I don't know. I just think just the way I was brought up, Kenosha, Wisconsin. We played a lot of pickup basketball on the playgrounds, and it was real physical. And we always played against the guys that were older than us. Like our era was like we had a pretty good group of guys, and then there was a group like right in front of us that was about 4 or 5 years older than us, and we would always just meet on the weekends and just battle against the older guys and shit. I mean, we got to get fired to the chest, all kind of just crazy stuff, and it just made me tough. And I definitely got to just say the upbringing, just the way I was brought up, just being brass, talking trash on the court, and really just not afraid to fail. I think I learned that at an early age.
That's good, man. Like I said, been a fan of yours for a while. And one thing that always drew me to you, because when I really first seen you, obviously, you were a Laker in the mid to early 90s and everything. I grew up in the Bay Area. So I grew up around multiple Lakers fans, and you were always one of the favorites. And you were actually in a really special era of Laker players, because it was immediately after the Showtime era, immediately after pretty much Magic was done, even though he came back a little bit sparingly toward the end. It was just, the Lakers are always, the show. And it was something, you really embodied that to me, just with your play style, how free flowing you were. I used to actually want big hands like you, because you used to palm the ball in transition and do funny things. And so one thing that I wanted to ask was, when you were coming up, did you have guys whose games you wanted to tailor yours after, whether they be like nationally known guys or just locally respected guys that you kind of hooped around? And then on the second side of that, are there players in today's game that you think you would look eye to eye with, or that you think kind of like identifies or embodies what you tried to bring to the game as far as your flash and how you played it on a per possession basis?
So I break that down in several different areas. So first, it was like I was never a flashy player until I got to LA.
Really?
I was always just very basic, like make the right pass, because I hated turnovers. And I really didn't start like throwing behind the back passes and shit till I got to LA, because of course it was Hollywood. And following behind Magic, you realize that people out there, of course, they want you to win, but they want to see a show as well. So that's when I just started throwing behind the back passes and getting a little bit more fancier with it. I've never been like that. I've been just straight basic, jump off 2 feet, make the simple pass, simple play. There were a couple guys in my area where I grew up, Watcher Glass, Al Steele, guys who I looked up to, and guys that we don't hear about, but shit, they used to whip my ass all the time on the court.
Right.
And then as I got a little bit older, like Pearl Washington was one of my favorites out of Syracuse. I used to love watching him play. Isaiah Thomas, Tiny Archibald, Magic. So I really wouldn't say I try to pattern myself after those guys. I just watch those guys and just learn from the visuals. So not really saying I took anything from any player, just watching guys. I was just a student of the game. I love sports in general, basketball,
Right.
boxing, football. I just love sports. So watching those guys really gave me an identity of not how I wanted to be, but how probably I wanted to play a little bit to be like some of those guys to get to a level. And my level that I really wanted to get to was fucking just playing Division I basketball. The new guys of this era, like I'm an old school cat, so like I always give the new guys credit, and I don't try to put myself in any of these guys' shoes because I think it's their time. And I don't get caught up in people saying this era, that era, because this player playing that era. Like NBA players are NBA players, and you're gonna adjust to the time. So whether guys are playing now, they fucking NBA players, they could play back then because all the shit's gonna be different and vice versa. So I don't get caught up in who plays like this and does so and so look like me? Do I look like so and so? It's everybody's time. Everybody get their chance to shine. So now it's on those guys.
Okay, that's cool. It's funny you said Isaiah Thomas too, because I grew up watching Hoop Dreams back in the day, if you remember that. So I used to always try to call him Tusk because that's what Arthur Agee called him in Hoop Dreams. But he was from Rick neck of the woods though, out there in Chicago.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Nick, a lot of people kind of sleep on the talent that comes out of the state of Wisconsin, right? Kenosha is not a place that, is widely known outside of the Midwest. Being from Chicago, the AAU tournaments to Kenosha, there's a couple of colleges right around in those areas, right? And you got a lot of good hoop, especially coming from Milwaukee as well. I just wanted you to spend a couple of seconds just talking about, Wisconsin basketball, right? Your upbringing and how that kind of influenced how you play today and some of those battles that you had in, playing for the private school in Kenosha, going up and facing some of those bigger Marquette high school teams. You went to the state championship back-to-back years, right, Nick? And, I think you probably would have wanted those to end a little bit better, right? But that fueled you into the player that you are today. Oh, you could Jody in the background say, hey, there we go. Love it. Now, just wanted you to talk a little bit about, a little love for Wisconsin basketball and what you like in, players of today. You got Tyler Hero, you got Jordan Poole, you got Tyrese Halliburton's in the league, So a little bit about Wisconsin and how that Kenosha Fire fueled your career.
I know back when I was coming up, I think, when you come from a place like that, you don't get a lot of recognition. Like for me, nobody knew about me. So I had to you always got that chip on your shoulder because you hear about all these other guys, like so-and-so is ranked this, so-and-so is ranked that. And you just want an opportunity to play against those guys. So that was like my hunger. Like I wanted to just show whenever I got an opportunity that, look, man, I'm just as good as the big city guys, Chicago, New York, LA. I'm just as good as these guys. Just got to get an opportunity. And, back then it wasn't a lot of opportunity. So that was one of the main reasons why I went to a junior college, was to get some exposure to try to get to a higher level Division I. I had a lot of mid-major Division I schools recruiting me, but I felt I was a little bit better than that. So I just kind of gambled on myself. And fortunately, it worked out for me by, going to Cincinnati. But I just think it's the chip on your shoulder because nobody's giving you a lot of attention in that area. So me coming out of high school, going to two state championships and, losing both, but even still, just people even in your home state not giving you the recognition that you felt you deserved. And so that was just like the chip just steady getting bigger and bigger on your shoulder. So, growing up in Kenosha, Wisconsin, it's like you got a fight coming out of there. It's like got to fight every night to prove my love, and that's how I felt. So anytime I got an opportunity to go up against somebody with the name, I try to take advantage of it or just let them know, look, it don't matter where you're from. If you can hoop, you can hoop.
That's right.
Okay, so speaking of that chip on your shoulder type of mentality, I know that was something that Jerry West used to mention. Like he's been quoted and saying that a lot as far as like that's what stood out to him about you. I've really only heard him talk about, well, he actually called you his favorite Laker at that time too. I remember that. But I think you and Kobe are the two that I've heard him like really have like a lot of passion about, like when he's, talking about his favorite players.
Mhm.
Just give me your take and everything about your relationship with Jerry West coming into the league and throughout your career as a Laker.
It's funny. I hear that all the time that Jerry says that, but I'm like, damn, why would you trade me to Denver if I was your man? Like, I mean, at the time when he traded me, Denver was like had won like 15 games. Like I'm your man. That's how you gonna do me. But Jerry, when I very first met him, I flew into LA and he has like it was a picture of somebody on the wall, and he pointed to the logo. So he was like, you know who that is? So I said who the person was, and he's like, no. And then he pointed to the logo. So I'm looking at the logo. I'm like, I said, is that Bob Cousy? He's like, no, that ain't Bob Cousy. I said, Pete Maravich? He's like, no. He said, that's me. I said, get the fuck out of here. He's like, no, that's me. So that was like kind of like one of our first, conversation where we sat down and talked to each other. But to me, Jerry was like, it's unbelievable the way he spots talent. That shit is crazy. Like he has a really freaking gift of spotting good talent. But one thing with Jerry, like Jerry always kept it 100 with me. Like when I'd be out there bullshitting, he'd bring me in the office the next day. I'm like, what you want to do, man? Like what you want your career to be? And he would just be straight up front. Like you out there bullshitting, you fucking around, you don't want it. He says, I know you have the passion for it, but you don't have the passion for it every night. And he was right. He was right, because I tell people all the time, it's a difference between being good and great. Like I look at myself as a good player. I say the great players, they show up every night. Like me, I had a problem with getting up for guys who I probably knew I could dominate, or a team that I know we gonna beat the shit out of them. Like I had a problem getting up for those teams.
Right.
And the guys, like I say this all the time, Gary Payton, Jason Kidd, the Hall of Famers, they don't give a damn who they playing. They coming at you every single night. And I be telling people it's levels to it. And if I would have had that kind of approach, I think I would have been a lot better. But Jerry was a guy, like he wanted me to be at that level every single night, no matter who I played. And if I wasn't, he would let me know. And I think the main reason he traded me was because, of course, there was friction between me and the coach at the time, but he was just like, man, this kid is just so young and so stubborn. I don't think he's going to get it, And we say in the NBA, a lot of guys are 2 and 3 teamers, meaning, okay, they leave this situation, go to this situation. Maybe they'll get it. Maybe they'll grow. Hell, that's the second team. Maybe get to the third team. Maybe he gets it. Maybe everything that was taught to him in the first team and the second team, now he gets it in the third team. And I think that was kind of, Jerry's thinking was like, I don't think he's ever going to get it here, but let me push him over to the side and let him flourish. And he'll understand what I was talking about down the line. So basically, we have a good relationship. We've talked. I know the first time I seen him was, woo, I was getting taped, and we're playing in LA. It's the first time I've seen him since the trade. And he comes into the locker room, and I see him coming in because I'm sitting on the table. I'm like, damn, I didn't want to speak to him. And Jerry was just so OG. He would just put his hand out there, and I had to shake his hand. I didn't want to, but I had to shake his hand. And he just shook my hand and walked out the other door. And that was our interaction. And then we hadn't spoken to each other in like years after that, because it was a little. I felt a little bitter, not for the simple fact that he traded me, because I wanted to move on at that time, but to that situation because he knew that I was a competitor.
Right.
And me going to a situation where you're going to the worst team in the league, And knowing how much of a competitor I am, that shit is tough being on a losing team.
The Late Night Lake Show podcast is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best legal way to play daily fantasy player props in states like California, New York, Texas, and more. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry. The best part is you can mix players from different sports. You could take the over on LeBron combined with the under on Mahomes in the same entry. Prize Picks is the easiest way to play daily fantasy because it's just you versus the projected numbers. Just use our promo code LNLS, and any deposit you make can receive 100% instant deposit match up to $100. So go support the brand and go win you some money. It's the best of both worlds. Again, use our promo code LNLS. So which team would you say that it was a aha moment? Which team were you with when it clicked to you?
Well, I mean, I thought it was kind of clicking a little bit, my last couple of years in LA, but we had so much change, with the Shaq situation coming in, because we felt that we were a pretty good team, we were going this way. Then Shaq came in, and then that took us to a whole nother level. You know what I'm saying? So I had to change my game completely. Had no problems with that. And then when I get traded to Denver, now it's oh shit. It's you go from a contender to not even sniffing the playoffs. And that shit is night and day in the NBA. I tell people all the time, man, if you on a playoff team and a losing team, it's 2 NBAs. It's literally 2 NBAs. And people really don't understand that. People just think just because they in the NBA that everything is all gravy. No, it's not gravy. You want to be on a winning team. So I would really think that probably when I got to Dallas, because when I got to Dallas, I came off the bench behind Steve Nash because that team was really, really good. And I was just adding a different piece to it. So I think when I got to Dallas, I started to see things totally different. Even though in Denver, I was able to do my thing. We just, never got over the hump because, McDyess had a bad injury. So that kind of put us back a little bit. But when I got to Dallas is when I was damn, it kind of all hit me at that point.
Yeah, man. I wanted to just touch on something that you said really quick to kind of reiterate it because I love hoop. I've played basketball my entire life. I was NAIA. I wasn't lucky enough to be D1. But one thing that I realized when I was in NAIA was the quality of basketball players at JUCOs is really next level. The best players I ever played against were at JUCOs, and I don't even think it's honestly that close. So for you to be able to go to a JUCO and do what you did after that just really is a testament, I wanted to say, to just obviously your dedication to the game, because I've also seen a lot of guys who are great basketball players go to JUCOs and then lose that love for the game because it's not what they envisioned after the career they may have had in high school or what they were expecting. It was almost in a way like that for me, just being NAIA and not being able to, play at what I felt like would be the top level at that time. And that type of stuff really challenges your love for the game and make you ask yourself how much you love this game. So I definitely just wanted to touch on that because I don't think a lot of times people understand that grind that it takes to go from JUCO to your next step. And then if you're able to play professionally, whether it's semi-pro or G League or overseas, or if you're lucky enough to, get drafted and go to the NBA. But the one thing that I think is most near and dear to everybody's hearts, or at least when I talk to people, is just the memory that they had around you guys towards the latter part of the 90s, like that 98 season when Eddie Jones, Shaq, you, Kobe all made the All-Star game. Do you have any moments from that year that you thought about, or that when you knew, oh, this is going to be a special season? Because not many teams are able to send 4 players to the All-Star game. So to do that when you got, 11, 12 other teams in the conference really, really is a special thing, and it's a special time. Did you guys know that season was going to be like that going in, or did it take a little bit of time before y'all got rolling?
Man, honestly, I don't even I see why I made it, but I don't think I even should have made the All-Star team that year. I
Wow.
thought I had a better year, like my
But
second year in the league, but I understand
Mm.
politics, as I got older, why I didn't make it as a second year player. But like to me, the only reason I think of me making that All-Star team was because Shaq got hurt a significant amount of games and we were
hmm
able to keep it going. Like we were
hmm
still a really, really good team when he went out. But I'm like, when I can remember, like when they told me I made the All-Star team, we was all huddled up in practice. I'm like, I felt like, man, that's some bullshit. I ain't gonna lie, like I wasn't happy about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, because to like I say to me, and that's the thing, that's another level, like good and great. Like to me, I didn't play for stuff like that. Maybe I should have. Maybe my mind should have been different, but I didn't play for stuff like that. And at that time, I really like. I'm like, man, I ain't no damn all-star. Like I knew I was a good player, but I didn't think I was playing all-star basketball that year. I just think that, Shaq went down a lot of games that season and we were able to keep that thing going. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why, the coaches voted for me. And I think when the coaches vote for you, it means it's a little bit more special than
Correct.
the fans voting for you. So
Correct.
I was not gonna say I was excited about it. I think when I got to New York that year for the All-Star game, I'm like, man, I'm ready to go out, man. I don't want to go to no damn no damn practice. I'm ready to hit these New York streets because I really wasn't a New York kind of a guy, so I really wanted to see what New York was about at that time. So my mind was all fucked up, man.
That's crazy. I don't think that's something that I would have envisioned. That's crazy as hell. But I mean, that makes
Now,
sense though. It's cool as hell.
I'm gonna tell you a crazy story. So I had got hurt and I hurt my knee and I think I had to have surgery that same year. I made the All-Star team, and Stephon Marbury was actually from New York, and
Right.
Mhm.
he was killing that year.
Yeah.
And he come into
Blake
our locker room
Marbury.
like, "Where Nick at? Where Nick at?" But I couldn't play. I had sat out a few games because I was about to get surgery on my knee. Wasn't it like he was mad as hell? He was mad at me. I'm like, motherfucker, I ain't do shit.
Right.
I ain't do shit. Go talk to the coaches. Then I saw something where J.R. Ryder said something. I'm like, Jay, my man. We played together in Denver, came out the same year. I'm like, shit, I didn't vote, man. Y'all got to take that up with the coaches.
Wait, hold on, Nick. Did you know that the year that you were All-Star, that was your best 3-point shooting year of your career?
Well, shit. I mean, I just threw the ball in the shack and I just spotted up. I mean, what the fuck?
You said it wasn't too hard, huh?
It wasn't. That was the best he shot from 3.
Hey, look, man, I tell you what, the big fella drew so many double teams. He was like, y'all just make shots. Shit,
Right.
we just threw that thing in and I used to like to run to the corner. Like, because, back in that day, we knew with a double team was coming from the top. They was going to have to rotate from the weak side and swing. I get a shot in the corner. So I used to like to throw it into the big fella and try to get to the opposite corner as quick as I could. Sometimes Eddie, old greedy ass, would move out of the corner. He'd be waving me out. So, damn, but we used to fight to get to the corner, man, because we knew that corner 3 was the easiest shot in the game. So throw it into the big fella, you're going to get some good looks.
Yeah.
Do you I mean, being around Shaq, because that was, this is what Shazam. This is all the everything that came with Shaq.
Platinum record Shaq. Let's not forget that.
Platinum record Shaq. Nick, just real quick, man. A crazy Shaq experience that you had with him, probably at the peak of his powers.
Damn, how many? Like, Shaq was, man, like, I think we all see Shaq when he always does the charity type work. Like, he just may go into a Home Depot and just break somebody off. May go into a Walmart. Like, he's been doing that forever. Like, that's just him. I've seen him give our strength. I mean, not our strength, but our equipment manager bought him a food truck. Like, Shaq is the most giving person that I've ever seen in my life. But he got a lot to give. So he definitely gives it and he shares it. So it was one time when the big fella, he felt he wasn't getting the respect that he deserved. He thought he deserved because he hadn't won one yet. And like, he was just like I gotta win a championship, because now when he wins, he felt when he won the championship, when he wins the championship, now he gets to that level. So he wanted to win so bad. And at the time, you know, the NBA, the referees will fuck with you a little bit. You know, they gonna make you kind of wait a little bit. You know, they not gonna give you the calls you think you should get. And then once you get there, now you start getting all the calls. So when Shaq first get to LA, he gets pissed off. And he storms into the locker room after one of the games. He felt he didn't get the calls, and those little things in the bathroom stalls, that's, you know, where you're sitting down taking a shit where the toilet paper and all that comes out.
Right.
He must have ripped that thing. I don't know. We don't know how he did it. We just heard, and we just run in there, and next thing you know, you see him just snatching the thing and just throwing it. And these motherfuckers don't respect me. They don't respect me. Like, the big fella was, he was competitive, man. He wanted to win. And I wish I would have won one with him, because I wanted to experience that championship feeling. But when he came to the Lakers, like, you know, that shit went out the roof, man. Like, the expectations, you know, even just traveling wise. When Magic came back, the shit was crazy. Like, traveling wise, like Lakers, Boston, Chicago, it's a few teams that just have that when you go into an opposing city, it's ridiculous.
Right.
When Magic came back to the Lakers, it was ridiculous. But when Shaq came, I mean, every place we went was sold out. And like, he felt that pressure. So just that night, I think it kind of boiled over, and he just snatched that damn toilet paper thing out of the stall. Like, yeah, he was upset that night.
I've been mad before. I don't think I could garnish the strength to just rip a damn
just
toilet cover.
That's what I'm trying to, like, how the hell did you? Yeah, he did it.
Hey, I feel Shaq though, because I'm not nearly as big as Shaq, but I'm a big guy, just regularly speaking. So I would get bullshit calls from referees in AAU or playing on a basketball team, and like, it had been times where I've punched holes in walls. So I definitely get it.
Right. Big guys always get shitted on, man. Always.
Yeah, I was trying to tell people, man, because a lot of times referees are former guards. In most cases, they are former guards, so they're not going to understand the shit that a guy, big man, he's running 90 to 90, basically, especially back then. You're running under the basket to under the basket, where most guards are running backcourt to backcourt. Yeah. So first of all, you probably getting fouled 4 or 5 times, and the refs is just like, oh, you guys are just playing.
You got to live with it, bro.
Yeah, you're getting loose ball fouls just all the time. And then when they give you a bullshit ticky-tack foul that shouldn't be called, or you get whacked. And Shaq, people don't remember, Shaq used to be like Diesel. Like, he used to be like really built, and people would just rail on his arms and just pull him down. And then when you get mad, they say you the one acting crazy. And I'm just like, damn, I've been getting my ass beat all day.
That's just a build-up, like over 20 games. That's not that one game. It's a build-up.
No, folks think LeBron had it bad during his peak of his time. I mean, shoot, even last year, LeBron decided he's always been pretty calm, cool, collected as far as like complaining, going irate. But that Boston game last year where he was fouled at the end, going for that game winner, and he just let all of it out, that was probably his version of that Shaq ripping the toilet seat out. Right?
For sure, for him. I mean, like, yeah, that was pretty blatant.
So just crazy. Kind of backtracking just a little bit, and I want to talk obviously a little bit about the Kobe years, like especially when he first came in. I don't know why, I just imagine the dynamic between you two especially just being hilarious to watch as an outsider looking in, just because of the level of trash talking and like competitive nature. And you know, he mentions you a lot in different interviews, you know, referencing back of who kind of like mentored him and who cooked him. You were the first one to cook him. That whole quote of "you reach, I teach," that hilarious. Okay, so I want to know about that relationship between you and Kobe, but also I want to know, who was it for you that got you when you first came into the league, Nick? Like, who cooked you to where it stands out to you to this day?
Well, the Kobe situation was kind of a weird situation because Kobe was 18 coming into the league, and at that time, and guys are not really ready at that time. Kobe was a really, really good player, outstanding player, but he wasn't the Kobe that we've seen like 10 years down the line. Like that's with everybody, of course. So we felt as a team that we were ready to win a championship. And, with a young guy like Kobe coming in and the pressure of a coach, play Kobe from the media, from the fans, you know what I'm saying? So it was kind of tough on the coach and then even the players because Kobe wasn't ready at that time. Was he a good player? Of course he was a good player. Practices was I tell you what, practices was some of the most intense practices when Kobe came because Kobe was like, he didn't know any difference from a shoot around to a practice to a game. He didn't know a difference. So you can be in a shoot around where you're like going like 10%. Kobe's going 95%. We're like, damn, young fella, slow down. And it's funny because he talks about that with some young players, but that's how we used to do him because he was just like full speed in a shoot around and like we just walking through. Like his mindset, like Kobe was so far ahead of us. He was so much more mature than we were, at the time when he first came into the league, and he was 4-5 years younger than me. But he was so much more mature than I was. Kobe had the mindset of legacy. He had the mindset of being great. He had the mindset of like, I want to be like MJ. Not just to say it. A lot of people say it, but they don't mean it because their actions don't show that they mean it. Like Kobe meant it when he said that shit because his actions that he put out in practice said that he wanted to be great. He wanted to win championships. He wanted to leave a legacy to where people will always remember him. And that's what he did. And that's one thing, I only played with him 2 years, but from afar, as I watched him grow, that's one thing I respected about him because I knew what he was doing when I wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? I knew the work that he was putting in when I wasn't there because I've seen it from him as a rookie. He would take our power forwards, Corey Blunt, Sean Rooks, and all those guys. He would take all those guys on the side rim and play one-on-one. And they couldn't touch the ball. They just played defense. So if he missed, they would get a point. If he scored, he would get a point. But the moves he was doing all the Jordan moves. He was doing all, and he worked on that. All of 10 pump fakes. He worked on that. And I'm sure y'all know the story about, him taking my tapes. I used to bring I used to have VHS tapes, 4 or 5 hour tapes. I would bring them on the plane. And I had a buddy of mine from Chicago that made me he made me 2 Michael Jordan tapes. I'm talking about like, if I had those tapes right now, I probably could make a lot of money. I probably wouldn't put my name on them, but I'll just throw them out there and make a lot of money because there was some shit on there that people never seen. It was like all like just highlights of MJ. And it was like both tapes was like 4 or 5 hours. And I let Kobe was like, yo, Kiko. Let me get that tape. So I'm like, all right. I know I'm gonna get it back.
Right.
And it's funny because I don't know if y'all remember T-Mac said that. He was like, when I used to go to his house, all he would do was watch Michael Jordan tapes. And I'm like, motherfucker, them my tapes. My tapes. I need to go get my shit. But yeah, man, that dude he was so far ahead of his time, man, because like his mindset was just to be great, but not just to be great. I got to work to be great, and he put the work in.
That's a funny ass story. Kobe Bryant is stealing Nick Van Exel Jordan tapes.
Yeah.
And then the next part of that, though, Nick. So who was it for you, though? Because he listed you, but who was it for you when you first came in?
When I first see this what I say. I like everybody get their head cracked. Like it's not a person that plays in the NBA that don't get their head cracked. Like everybody's gonna get their head cracked at some point. you're gonna do a lot of head cracking, but you're gonna get your head cracked at some point. Dana Barrows, I think, gave me 50 one time. In Philly, I think Coach Lucas was coach. I don't know if that was my rookie year or not, but I know he put up a 50 ball.
That was biblical. What did they say to you in the locker room after that? It was like,
Hey,
damn, man.
You know what? I think after 20, they put Eddie on him. So Eddie probably got 30. I only got 20.
There you go. Right.
So yeah, I know Dana Barrows got hot one night. He put up 50. I can remember Kenny Smith putting up 40, but I think Kenny Smith's 40 was kind of like me and Shaq on the same team, where you got a double dream. And we got a double the dream every time, and Kenny just every time just wow. Okay. With that flick it ass jump shot.
Yeah.
He hit 40 on me that night. So I mean, I don't remember the first person, but I just know I got my hair cracked a lot, but I did a lot of hair cracking as well.